Has it started yet?
Hi, Marcy.
Hello. Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Hello.
We're just at 12 o'clock. I'm going to give everyone 1 minute to get here, and then we'll dive in. Who's the 216 number?
Deborah Light.
Hello. Oh, I see you have the phone and computer on, right?
I'm going to turn the phone off, though,
Oh.
actually. I wanted to turn off the phone, so thank you.
No problem. So we should be joined by some more people as we get going, but I want to make sure that we cover everything that we have planned to cover over the next hour so that we leave this call feeling excited to come and lobby on November 13th. So we feel prepared and so we feel comfortable. But one more thing I want us to leave this call feeling is a little bit more connected to RAC Ohio and to the other people who make up RAC Ohio, the people who you're going to be joining with to lobby for our bills on November 13th. So I thought we could start. And if you have, in the vein of feeling connected to one another, if you have the ability right now to go on camera, if you go to bottom left corner of your Zoom window, there's a video icon, and to the right of the video icon is a little caret. You can click start video, or you can select your camera. Hi, Alyssa. Thanks for joining us on video. And if you don't have the ability to be on video right now, that's totally fine too. So I'm going to share my screen for most of this call as we work through some slides together and talk about Lobby Day. And so I'll let you know our agenda. First, we're gonna go around and we're gonna just briefly share who you are, which congregation you are joining us from, the congregation name and city, if you're a member of a congregation, and one thing you hope to take from Lobby Day, one thing you hope happens there, one thing you hope to take away. So that's what we're gonna do. First, we're gonna do some rounds. After that, we are going to talk about the logistics of Lobby Day. So the things you, like the basic human needs you're gonna need to know, where to park, when you're gonna eat, when you're gonna get take care of anything you might need to take care of, how you're gonna get around the State House. After that, we're gonna talk about the issue. After that, we're gonna talk about lobbying, just basically the do's and don'ts of a legislative meeting, how to feel prepared for that meeting, and the things we're gonna do to prep on the day of Lobby Day. And lastly, we're gonna delve into the two issues that we are lobbying for: gun violence prevention and criminal justice reform. So those are the things that we're gonna do on this call. So I'd love to start with a brief rounds where we say our name, our congregation, and one thing we hope to take away from Lobby Day. So I can model that. I am Rabbi Lindsay Danziger. I'm a member of Wise Temple in Cincinnati, but I'm really here as the lead organizer of RAC Ohio. And one thing that I hope to take from Lobby Day is an increase in the power of Reformed Jews of Ohio to accomplish our objectives. I hope that when we come together in Columbus, we feel accountable to one another and committed to move forward and take action. So I am going to just call on people as I see you on our screen so we don't have to wait in between. Jeannie, would you share?
All right, can you hear me? I'm not sure I'm on.
We can hear you.
Okay, so I'm Jeannie Aronoff. I am a member of WISE in Cincinnati, and I am on my way to go get my tooth pulled, so I'm glad you called on me first because I'll probably listen more than talk. A lot of it for me is education, just so I have something kind of back to say, more than just feelings, more factual stuff. My husband's amongst other things, he does part-time police work also. So people just assume I'm like great with guns and those kind of things, but it's the violence behind it that I want to know more of and be able to talk about.
Thank you. And I'm writing down some of the things you guys hope to take away. So if you see me looking away, that's what I'm doing. Jenna.
My name is Jenna Schaefer with Wise Temple here in Cincinnati. And some of the things that I want to take away are that I feel that it's important to have a voice that is on, that is for Jews, that is around, we have multiple issues that we want to address. We're a pluralistic, all-encompassing group of people. And I want to put a face behind what we're saying. So often it's so easy for them to brush us aside when we pick up the phone and call or write a letter. Here we're putting ourselves, our energy, our blood, sweat, tears in front of them so they can't ignore us. And so I want this energy of all of us coming together to show them, we need business. We have to do something.
Thanks, Jenna. Katie.
Sorry. Hi, I'm Katie. I'm a legislative assistant at the RAC, so I'm in the DC office, and I'll be coming to Columbus to support during the Lobby Day. So I'm just really excited to sort of meet everyone at the Lobby Day and sort of see how, like, the influence that we have sort of in Ohio and sort of how our communities are engaging with this work.
Thank you, Katie. And I forgot to mention that this call is being recorded so that those who were not able to make a prep webinar can view it later. Alyssa. Can't hear you. We still can't hear you. I'm going to come back to you, Alyssa, okay? Because I see that you're talking, but we cannot hear you. Deborah.
Hi, I'm Deborah Light, and I'm from suburban Temple Colamy in Beechwood, Ohio, a suburb of Cleveland. And I hope to get a couple things. One, talking points, not only for the day, the Lobby Day, but in other situations to be able to talk about these issues intelligently and succinctly. And also, I'm looking forward to getting a view of how this process works in the state of Ohio. In Columbus. I've lobbied for other things in Washington, D.C., which I think is going to be a very different experience in Columbus.
Great, it is. In a lot of ways more accessible. Marcy.
Hi, I'm Marcy Cantor. I am having trouble with my video, so I'm trying another aspect. But anyway, I'm from Cincinnati, Wise Temple. And I'm just really excited to see the Reformed Jews in Ohio be together and power, strength and power is, and I was just, to me, to face legislators or assistants or whoever we'll be talking to, and for them to know that we are here and we that we are here. Put it that way.
Thank you. And for those who joined us recently, we're just saying our name, our congregation, and one thing we hope to take away from Lobby Day. Phyllis, will you share?
Sure. Hi, I'm Phyllis Jackson, also from Wise Temple in Cincinnati. And similar a bit to Deborah, I have also done some lobbying in Washington, D.C., so I'm very interested and excited to see how our state process works, and I have great hope that I will leave the day feeling more hopeful about the impact we can make, and ideally that we are being listened to both because of our passion and our power, and that the voice of the people actually matters.
Excellent, thank you. And Karen?
Hi, everyone. I'm Karen Goodman, also from Wise Temple here in Cincinnati. I am hoping to, I'm hoping actually after Lobby Day and as things continue I believe one of the goals was to encourage other members of the Reform community in whether in your own congregation or throughout your city community to share the information we get and pass that on to them and hopefully honestly inspire those who really do not want to be involved and are don't quite know how you can make an impact even with something with so many small pieces. It doesn't have to necessarily be spending the day in Columbus, but that there are a lot of ways to use your voice, ultimately use your voice. And I'm hoping we all can have tools to spread that information to others that hopefully can get comfortable using their voice.
Thank you. Alyssa, do you want to try again? Oh no, we still can't hear you. I'm sorry. And I see Amy joined us. Amy, we're just finishing up saying your name, where you're coming from, and one thing you want to take from Lobby Day, if you feel comfortable sharing.
My name is Amy Katz. I'm one thing I'd like to take from Lobby Day, sort of picking up on what I heard Karen say, is I just think continuing to build energy. I mean, I've been energized in the past year, and I see this as a milestone, but there will be others. So I just see it as it's also a time to really join with and connect with other members at WISE as well as across the state. But sustaining the energy we've built is probably my biggest takeaway.
Thank you for everyone for sharing. I think you actually really hit on most of the key points that we as the people, the Lobby Day committee who have been planning this day were our goals. So Marcy, I see on this call, was also on the committee and part of this conversation, but in organizing any action we take, we want there to be a reaction. So in this Lobby Day, we want there to be an internal reaction, which is a lot of what you shared, that we want people to feel like they're part of a movement. We want to build energy. We want to come together to really take action as the Reformed Jews of Ohio and continue to become more of a organized and coherent group who can hold differing opinions, but who are part of a holy community acting together. And we want there to be an external reaction, and that our legislators will see us as a community taking action coherently together, who's going to hold them accountable to voting and taking action in line with our positions on these two issues. Sorry, I think there's an echo on one of the Marcys. So I'm going to dive into our agenda now and share my screen with all of you. Slideshow. Okay. So are you seeing the screen that says RAC Ohio Lobby Day prep? Okay, great. So I already went over the agenda. This is what we're going to be talking about today. We did our rounds. So let's start talking about logistics. And after every section, I'll pause and I'll elicit some questions from you guys. So this is what the program is going to look like when you arrive in Columbus. From 9 o'clock to 9:30, we're going to have a registration table open where you'll be able to come, get your name tags, hang your coats up, find your seats. We're also going to have some coffee, some water, muffins, and fruit. The Jewish mother in me wants to tell you to bring snacks, because between 9 and 1, we're not going to be able to serve you any food. I would have loved to bring some bags of grab-and-go snacks, but the contracts between the State House and their caterers do not permit for that. So if you're going to get hungry between 9 and 1 while you're scurrying all over the State House to your meetings, bring snacks and spread the word among your friends who are coming to bring a water bottle and some snacks. So then we're all going to find our seats, and we're going to have an opening program for really only 30 minutes. We have to have a quick introduction to a grounding text to frame our day. We're going to learn, and then we're going to learn about our 2 issues. So we're going to hear personal testimony and a little bit about the bills we're lobbying for. Then there'll be some tables, there'll be chairs set up for you to break out. Everyone will have 2 meetings, and therefore 2 meeting groups, and there'll be a lot of overlap between the people who are in your 2 groups, and that's because you're going to be split up based on the addresses you provided when you registered. If you gave your work address, that's the address I have for your representatives. If you gave your home address, that's the address I have. So you're going to be split up into your delegations, your Senate group and your House representative group. And in those delegations, you're going to have some time to decide how those meetings are going to go, who wants to have a speaking role, who would prefer just to be there and show strength in numbers, and who prefers not to speak, and who's going to say what type of thing. And we'll delve a little bit more into how that's going to go when we talk about lobbying on this call. Then from 11 to 1, you have 2 hours to have your 2 legislative meetings. And so what that means is you're going to have 60 minutes in a meeting and 60 minutes of downtime over the course of those 2 hours. 30 minutes for a meeting with your senator, 30 minutes for a meeting with your House representative, and we tried to make it so that you have at least 15 minutes to get from one place to another. That being said, you might want to meet up with your group while you have the lobby prep time. You might exchange phone numbers. You might say, okay, let's meet outside the office, or let's meet back here in between our 2 meetings, so we can walk together, so we can have more time to prep, or what have you. By 1 o'clock, all the meetings will have ended. You will come back to the atrium, which is where we are, our home base. It's actually very powerful. It's like the center of the State House. The representatives have to constantly walk back and forth through the atrium. It's kind of a powerful place to have our meetings for the day, because people can't ignore us. They have to see us. Last time we did this, the fact that we were sitting there singing words about justice in Hebrew in the middle of the State House atrium with really good acoustics felt like it was a statement in itself. So that's where we'll meet back for lunch. We're going to learn a little bit about Ohioans for gun safety and have a chance to sign the petition. And then we have an hour closing program where we'll debrief. We'll get a chance to look at some texts again, and we'll close out. So if for some reason you felt like you couldn't come to the full day, you'd want to stay at least through 1, so you could have your both your legislative meetings, which is really the heart of the program. So some logistics. If you are coming from Wise Temple in Cincinnati, or you are coming from Suburban Temple or Fairmount Temple in Cleveland, your congregations have arranged buses for you. If you didn't know that, please be in touch with me, and I'll make sure you get the information about those buses. This Temple's bus might be full, but you guys can comment on that more. If you are driving yourselves, I've been advised that the State House parking garage, since it's under construction, there's very limited parking at the State House itself, and you'd be best off just arriving early enough to find parking in one of the lots surrounding the central business district where the State House is located. You'll probably have to pay for parking in one of those smaller lots. I went over food. Lunch is boxed lunches. There'll be a meat option, a vegetarian option, and if you marked on your registration form that you can't have gluten or have a different food restriction, we will make that happen for you. Just if you didn't mark that on your registration form, make sure I know about that. And it'll be kosher style, so there won't be meat and dairy together, but there's no rabbinical deal or hechsher on the lunches we're eating. As far as accessibility, if you have any needs or mobility issues, you can park at the State House. There is enough, if you have a handicap parking tag, you can park at the State House. There will be handicap parking, even though there's construction. There should be enough handicap parking to go around. And there is a lot of walking in the day. The House Representatives meetings are in a building across the street. So that's something to note. If you think you might need a wheelchair, the State House can provide those. So if you have any different needs, let me know, including nursing, pumping. There is a lactation room at the State House that I have personally availed myself of. It's lovely. So that's logistics. I'm gonna see right now, pause. Does anyone have any questions about the logistics of the day? Wow. All right.
Lindsay,
Yes.
Lindsay, I do have a quick question. I was reading somewhere about lobbying and dress, and I, just wondered if that's something.
Great question. I need to add that to my my things that I'm talking to people about. Yeah. So dress professional attire. The people we're meeting with are going to be dressed probably between business casual and business formal. So you should do the same. You don't need to dress like you're a lobbyist, because you're not. You're a citizen. You're a person of faith who's coming there from that perspective. So you don't need to pretend to be someone you're not. So if you don't normally wear a suit, you don't have to, but just something that shows respect for the fact we're in the State House and we're meeting with professional people. So people usually know how to dress. Thank you. So lobbying. I'm going to start by talking about what's going to happen during your time to prep for your lobby visits at the State House. So you're going to break into your delegations. I'll tell you about halfway through when you should make sure, if you haven't met with, switch to meet. You'll start meeting with your group that's going to meet with the senators together. And then I'll tell you halfway through, okay, you should shift and make sure you find the group that's meeting with your House reps together. So also, if you're in a meeting with more than 3 people, there will be a lobby captain in that group who will kind of take charge and help assign the roles of who's doing what. So during the lobby prep, you're going to want to sit with your group, make a plan about who's going to speak about which topics and issues during your visit. And something you might want to do before, or just sitting there on your smartphones, is also talk about who the person you're meeting with is. What are their likely positions? What is the likely interest of the member who you're going to be meeting with? So some things you could do, I'm going to give you a packet that says if they're on a key committee. So since we're lobbying about guns and criminal justice, that's the Government Oversight Committee or the Judiciary Committee in the House and the Senate. So if the person you're meeting with is going to be on one of those key committees, there'll be a note of that, and then you'll have a special, it's extra important to really engage them on that issue. You're going to want to know their party affiliation. I will make a note that that'll tell you the general trend about how they might feel about this issue, but there are definitely representatives in Ohio that break the party mold. For example, there are Democrats who will not vote for in favor of gun violence prevention measures, and there are very few, but there are Republicans who will. In general, their general trends, so make sure that you know what they are, and also know that the person you're speaking to may not fit into that box. I'm also going to share with you a tool that I recently found called Vote Smart. So you could research this beforehand and share this with your group, and you can also pull it up on your smartphones on the day of lobby day. So it's votesmart.org. You type in the person who you're meeting with name and click on votes, and this will show you. This is Bridget Kelly. She is from Cincinnati, and she's a member of our House of Representatives, and she represents maybe a lot of people on this call. And you'll see I selected the issue was guns. And this actually tells a big story about Ohio. She voted nay against all these things, and that is because if you clicked on them, you'd see that all the bills that had been proposed in recent years were about expanding access to guns, making it easier to get guns, making it harder to regulate guns and harder to regulate where you can bring guns. So she is a big proponent of gun violence prevention and regulating guns. So she voted no on all these things. So that would give you an idea of how the conversation is going to go when you go into that meeting. Okay, back to our slideshow. Okay, it won't let me advance my slide. Sorry. Let's try this again. So are you seeing where it says to make your lobby visits as effective as possible? Okay. So here are the 5 elements that we want discussed in lobby meetings to make them effective. And you will get a template that your lobby captain will guide the group through in filling out who's going to speak to each of these in the meetings. And I want to emphasize, we're not going to put you in a position that you're uncomfortable in. No one has to do anything they don't want to do or speak about something they don't feel confident speaking about. So we're gonna wanna let them know who's in the room. So where do you live? Are you their constituent? And who are we? What is RAC Ohio? We're going to tell them about the 2 issues we're talking about and say, why are these issues important for our state? So that's kind of like the statistics and the objective information. Why are these issues important to us as Jews? So we're gonna give you some text you could pull on, or there are lots of rabbis in the groups. Lay leaders are really knowledgeable in our community. You can bring up a different text or a different Jewish value if you want. Why are they important to you as an individual? And what is our ask? This is really important. What do you want the legislator to do? How do you want them to vote, or what do you want them to try to support changing in the bill? So this is a note about telling compelling stories in our meetings. So for many of us, you might have a story to tell about drug addiction, about incarceration, about gun violence in your own community. It doesn't have to personally happen to you, but how you felt during the shooting in Dayton, how you feel sending your kids to school and seeing the type of lockdown drills they have to go through. So anything to make it personal and make a human connection with the person you're meeting with. But also, if you don't have a story to tell, or no one in the group can think of a story, you can also talk about the fact that you don't have a story. That's a story. So the example we used here is for criminal justice reform. So maybe you and people in your community don't have to worry about what it's like to live with a felony record and all the things you lose access to. That's also a legitimate story to talk about. So this slide is really just to tell you, no matter who you are, no matter where you're coming from, you have what to talk about in these meetings. You are exactly the person who your legislator should be hearing from. So this is an introduction that everyone's going to have in front of them on the day, just so you have some talking points about what the RAC is, why we're there. So hello, my name is, and I'm from this congregation, this city. Everyone in the group will get a chance to introduce themselves unless it's a really big group. Thank you for taking the time to meet with us today. We are in Columbus with over 100 other advocates as part of the Ohio Religious Action Center of Reform Judaism's Lobby Day. We represent 900 congregations across North America, encompassing 1.5 million Reformed Jews and over 2,000 Reform rabbis. In Ohio, we represent 30 congregations and approximately 40,000 people. We would like to discuss criminal justice reform and gun violence prevention with you today. You don't have to say all of that. You can pare it down. But I also wanted people on this call who might not have worked with the RAC before to know who we are and to let you know this introduction to who we are. At the end of the meeting, you want to make sure that you elicit some feedback from the person you're meeting with about the next steps. And we're going to give you reporting forms. So you'll leave the meeting and you'll take notes of what type of information you gathered in the meeting. So some ideas of what you should ask at the end of the meeting. How do you, or how does the representative or senator plan to vote on these issues? And that's a quick note. some of you will meet with staff, which is also really important. But in Ohio, we have the unique situation of our representatives and our senators really will take the time and meet with us. I know Lobby Day in New York, Lobby Day in Texas, Lobby Day in California, often they're just meeting with staff. In Ohio, oftentimes you will meet with the actual legislator. Number 2, so you want to figure out, like, this is actually very key. The answers to this are going to be really important to our work moving these issues forward. So what do you think needs to be done to move the bill forward to the legislature? Who are the likely opponents? So this is going to help. The information you're gathering in these meetings are going to inform our work moving forward. Number 3, this is kind of just to engage and figure out what this representative's own interest is. So what issues do you see on the horizon for the rest of the session? And what are your priorities? And number 4 is what's next? What are the best ways for us to follow up with you about this issue, and how should we be engaging with your office? So those are 4 sample questions. You don't have to ask all of them, but some ideas of ways to gather really useful information in these meetings. So these are some do's and don'ts of lobbying. You're going to get all this information beforehand. So I don't think I need to go through every single one of these, but I will highlight some things that I just want to highlight. So I will say, make sure that you really do stick on message. I know we all have 100 issues, actually maybe not 100. There are 100 issues that we could all be really passionate about. And the 2 that we're lobbying on during Lobby Day might not be your personal number 1 passion issue, but we are asking you to stick on our message so that when the legislators get together in their caucus and they say, like, we all heard this same message, that's really powerful. If they all hear about different issues, our goal does get diluted. So we honor that there are lots of important things to lobby on. We ask you to stick on the 2 issues that we are lobbying for on Lobby Day. And at one of the roles that you will assign during your lobby prep time is who is going to leave a business card and send a thank you note. So that's also important. Some don'ts. Don't argue with your legislator or the staffer. Try to be polite when you stay on message. You don't need to agree with them. That's not to say that you can't hold attention and that you can't have a different perspective. You don't need to acquiesce and say, oh, I understand your point now, you're right. No, you don't have to do that. But in organizing, we say that agitation without relationship is just irritation. So if you don't know the person, you don't build a common ground and have a good interaction with them, they'll be less likely to hear the message we're trying to deliver and will be less effective. I also really want to highlight the second to last one. Don't be intimidated by this situation. Your legislators work for you. You pay their salary, and this is called the people's house. You have every right to be there. You have all the information you need to know to be in that office, and you should take up the right amount of space because you belong there. I know sometimes people get nervous in a new situation, but I hope we all remember that going in to the offices. And the last point on here is you don't have to, you're not walking in there as experts on the issues. They know that you are not a policy analyst. They know that you are not a paid lobbyist. You are there as a person of faith and a concerned citizen of Ohio. So all you need to know is be grounded in your own values and your own point of view. And that's all you need to know. So if they ask you a question that's technical or you just don't know the answer to, that's fine. Just say that you're not really sure and what's the best way to get back to you with the answer to that. So yeah, we're not coming in there with a message, the same type of message that a lobbyist or a think tank would have. We're coming in there with a message of citizens and concerned people of faith. And that's really all you have to represent. And I know that all of you already have everything you need to represent that perspective. Okay, so before we get into the issues, I just gave you a lot of information. I'm gonna breathe and ask you, what are you thinking right now? What are some questions that are bubbling up? Are there any anxieties bubbling up?
Lindsay, are we meeting with our own representatives or just a random throughout the state of Ohio?
You are meeting with your own representative. Yeah, that is the answer. In some cases, if there's a really small meeting, I'll contact the person and say like, hey, you're the only person from your district. Like, how about you come with a RAC staff person to that meeting so we make sure to get that meeting? And are you comfortable with that? If the person's like, I don't want to be in a 2-person meeting, I just don't want to, fine, we'll put them in a bigger meeting. But for the most part, you are meeting with your senator and your House representative.
Okay.
What didn't I cover? What are you still wondering about how to lobby?
I'll go ahead. I unmute, right? You can hear me?
We can hear you.
I just want to make sure because unless Marcy will know the answer to this, I'm assuming WISE is going to have a strong, or some of the sub congregations have a strong representative. And a lot of us here live obviously in a lot of the same area. So I already know a lot of us, for example, I think fall under, his name is Tom Brinkman, Marcy, or whoever, so there's going to be a lot of us perhaps with one representative. So is that where the lobby captain is going to help, just so we all have an opportunity to be able to speak, since some of us, where we are showing strength in numbers, and some of us will have the same representative?
That's a really good question. So yes, there's a big group from Cincinnati, and that falls into a bunch of different representatives. So Brinkman is one of the bigger groups. If you're in a group with more than 6 people, you'll meet in a conference room rather than the office. And there is going to be a lobby captain who will kind of facilitate the prep time and make sure that everyone knows what they're doing. So there'll be someone to do the introduction, someone to share a Jewish value, someone to talk about a personal connection, someone to make the policy asks. In a large group, there could be 2 people to some of those. In a really large group, not everyone is going to get a chance to speak, but actually not everyone's going to want to get a chance to speak. So in my experience, it usually works out that everyone who really wants to speak gets the chance to speak. And that is exactly what the lobby captain will facilitate.
Okay.
Alyssa, I see you raised your hand and used your Zoom.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yay! Okay, I restarted the meeting, so that seems to help. I was wondering, is this lobby day for other organizations and groups, or is this just a RAC lobby day?
This is just a RAC lobby day. We we work in coalitions, and the people who we're working with on both our issues have informed our asks in the past. And in one case here, we will be hearing from people who are not Jewish and not members of our community. But this lobby day is sponsored by the RAC, and it's our Reform congregations and communities coming together. Any other questions before we talk about our issues? Okay, I'm going to share my screen again. Oh, I don't know why it's not letting me move to the next slide. Okay. Are you seeing whoever destroys a single life? Yep. Oh no. Yes, okay. So this is a text that I've been looking at lately, and I think it applies to both our issues. Before we delve into our issues, I just wanted to take a moment and look at this text. I think it's probably one that a lot of us have seen before, and I'll read it aloud for those who are just on the phone. Whoever destroys a single life is considered by Scripture to have destroyed the whole world. And whoever saves a single life is considered by Scripture to have saved the whole world. And I think this text unites both of our issues. We're talking about two issues that are in some ways really different, but also have some overlap. So criminal justice reform, we're talking about mostly sentencing reform and felony records and what that means to individuals' lives. And with gun violence prevention, we are literally talking about individuals' lives. And oftentimes we see this text as just whoever saves a single life is considered to have saved the whole world. And oftentimes we see the first part cut out. The part about destroying a single life is considered to destroy the entire world. And I think that the combination of those two, both sides of this text, are really important to hold for the work that we're doing. We are working to chip away at two massive problems. The change that we are advocating for is important, and it's also incremental. So we are working to save single lives. We are working to improve single lives, and we are also not able to do the entire work with these bills we're advocating towards are not going to stop the destruction that continues to go on in these two issues. So I think that's a challenging and agitating truth to hold, but I think it's also an important truth to hold going into our fight for these two issues. So,
Lindsay.
Yes, please, Karen.
I'm sorry, you said sentence reform, and you mentioned two things about criminal justice reform.
Oh, okay. We're going to get deeper into that.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
This is just my preface, but I think I said sentencing reform, and I think I also talked about felony records.
Okay.
So that's going to be one of the big themes that we talk about for the day. So I'm going to start with gun violence prevention. And these are just some of the statistics that I think are calling us to action around this issue, in particular in Ohio. And these are some statistics that we'll put in front of you at Lobby Day so that you have the chance to incorporate them into your meetings about why this type of reform is necessary. So we are working in multiple ways on strengthening background checks in Ohio. We arrived at background checks because that's what's moving on the state level in different ways, and because the American Medical Association determined that the strongest link between legislation and actual reduction of firearm death rates that you see in the community is by strengthened background checks, especially in the areas of suicide and domestic violence. So then we have some statistics about Ohio. 90% of Ohioans and 87% of Ohio gun owners support stronger background checks. Since 2008, 8,067 people have died by gun suicide in Ohio. And of all suicides nationwide, a little bit more than half of them have involved firearms. And this last statistic I learned very recently, which is that of the 50 cities with the most gun violence in America, 5 of them are located in Ohio. So that is the most concentration of the 50 cities with the most gun violence. Ohio has the most, 5 is the largest number that any state in the country has. So that's not a title that we're proud of. So the bill that we are going to be talking about in specific on Lobby Day is Senate Bill 221. It was proposed by Governor DeWine, and it's known as the Strong Ohio Bill. So I think that it's important to state we're going to be hearing on Lobby Day from the front of the room and in all our materials that this bill does not go far enough. It is not strong enough, but it's a start. So our ask is to pass it, and it's not just a blanket approval, a blanket support of this bill. So the bill would create a process by which individuals could receive like a certification saying they passed a background check. So they would pass a background check in order to receive this certification, and then they would present this certification to buy a gun. And if gun sellers do not choose to make sure that people have passed these background checks, they will face stricter penalties for selling guns to people who are not legally allowed to own them. However, the idea behind the bill is that they're going to introduce this new process to make it easier to run background checks, and they're going to reduce these new penalties for not running background checks. The background checks are not mandatory. So that creates a lot of loopholes and it would be less effective than if they were mandatory. So why are we supporting this bill? I showed you before Bridget Kelly's voting record, which told a big story about Ohio. Most of the bills that have made it to a vote in our legislature are all about expanding access to guns, about doing away with regulations of who owns firearms, where you bring firearms, how openly you carry firearms in Ohio. This is a step by really high-profile politicians in the right direction. It will stop some, but not enough, of gun sales to individuals who are considered likely to use them to commit violence. And it's also the most likely gun safety measure to pass the legislature. There are some other really good bills that we could lobby for that are not going to go anywhere. So we want to use our time together and our power for something that has a chance to pass. And it's not guaranteed to pass. It actually really does need our advocacy. So in addition to saying pass this, our other ask is saying this legislation needs to be amended so that the background checks are mandatory. That's our legislative ask. And the status, it has been introduced and it has been referred to committee, and it's in the Senate Government Oversight Committee, and that happened just a few weeks ago.
Any idea when they're going to vote on it?
Oh my gosh. So, well, first it has to move through committee. It has to have a bunch of different hearings in committee. Usually it starts with just the sponsors of the bill have a hearing, then they open it up and proponents of it come to testify, opponents come to testify, and we will be involved in that process. That's usually how we work. I've heard that it won't be voted on until after everyone knows whether they're being primaried, because people don't like to appear weak on guns and then have someone run against them who's going to use that as an issue. So that's just a rumor. So probably not until after November. Yeah, for it to really get a vote. But
so I'm sorry, this is Deborah Light from Cleveland. So I'd like to share with you that this morning on our local NPR station, which is WCPN at Cleveland State, the sponsor of DeWine's gun bill, Matt Dolan, had a lengthy conversation with the moderator. So I would urge everyone, if you can get to Sound of Ideas on WCPN, to listen to it. It was quite interesting. The pros and cons, and Matt Dolan is a Republican from the suburbs of Cleveland, but there's some very interesting background information on this bill just this morning.
Do you have any big takeaways?
It's complicated. It's a complicated bill in terms, it's a complicated issue. It's not, straightforward, but absolutely agree with the RAC position that we need to move something forward. And that is Matt Dolan's position as well, which is quite interesting.
Yeah. And at the same time, we are working with Ohioans for gun safety to collect signatures to get true universal background checks on the ballot in 2020. And we're going to get a chance to sign the petition at Lobby Day if you haven't already signed the petition.
Perfect. Thank you.
So I'll pause here if there are any more questions about the gun violence prevention bill before we move on to our second bill.
Lindsay, I guess my question is about the statistics pages, because those statistics, I'm assuming, are well known. So is it your sense in these meetings that, and you may have addressed this already, that, that the legislator or their staff would have other statistics? And so it does get into a debate. And I know we're not there to argue. On the other hand, something around other statistics, alternative facts, if you will, that we should be prepared for?
You know, that's a great point. There are definitely other organizations who have other agendas, who come up with their own statistics. And I want to just refer back to what I said. Like, we're not there as policy analysts. We're not there as paid lobbyists. We are there as concerned people of faith. So of all the things that we spend time speaking about, I'd say this should be the least. We're going to have a leave behind document that will have plenty of statistics on it. And that's a really good point that I should make note of. The impression that you're going to make is not by sharing these statistics. It's going to be by sharing yourselves, our Jewish values, and your stories, and by showing up.
Thanks.
Any other questions about the gun violence prevention Senate bill? I'll move on to criminal justice reform. So we've been working on this issue for 3 years in Ohio, and Senate Bill 3, I will say, is the strongest legislation that we've seen proposed that until very recently seemed sure to pass. That's why it needs us. So I feel like the gun violence prevention campaign is our new campaign, and our rabbis talked a lot about it at different congregations around the high holidays. But I'm also really excited about what we have to lobby for around criminal justice reform. So this is just, these are some statistics, and the story and the narrative behind these bills are really deeply intertwined with overdose epidemic in Ohio and substance use disorder epidemic nationally, and which Ohio has been deeply impacted by. So both of these bills are about making it so that individuals, especially those who have substance use disorder or who are in recovery, are able to be treated as people who are suffering from a disease more so than criminals who need to be locked up. So that's like the main narrative behind it. So these are some statistics. I really need to write down the number because there was a number over 600 things in the Ohio Revised Code that you can't do when you have a felony record, including finding housing, jobs, getting education, getting student loans, getting public assistance, healthcare, like parental rights, even having due process of law. So over the years, we've really learned by all the individuals who are directly impacted that we've connected with that having a felony record is one of the largest obstacles to recovery from substance use disorder. And it kind of perpetuates itself. People are less likely to get clean when you're told that forever you're going to have this big stumbling block, to use words from our Torah, placed in front of you. So 50,600 Ohioans are currently imprisoned in facilities built to house 38,600. So if you can just like even begin to fathom how overcrowded our jails and prisons are. Black Ohioans make up only 10% of our population, but half of the individuals in our prisons. And the last two statistics are about the incredible rates of overdoses and deaths in Ohio. And we're the second in the nation for, speaking of statistics that we shouldn't be proud of as Ohio, we're the second in the nation for overdose deaths. So these are some of the numbers that are inspiring us to work on this issue. So we're advocating for two different bills, a House bill and a Senate bill. House Bill 1 expands records expungement. So that's kind of like record sealing, but it goes a step further. So that when people search a record for a loan, for renting an apartment, for hiring someone for a job, it won't show up after they've had a certain period of time and they've applied to have it expunged and gone through a lengthy process. And also it expands options to treatment in lieu of conviction. So rather than going to prison, signing up for a mandatory treatment program. Senate Bill 3 is the bill that I was talking about that I'm really excited about. This says, like off the bat, before you have to deal with expunging your record, let's like look at it differently and say if you are arrested for drug possession, for personal use, not to distribute. With some exceptions, such as date rape drugs, certain pills, and fentanyl. So let's say if you're arrested with with drug possession, let's make that a misdemeanor, not a felony, just off the bat, because that makes it a lot easier the road ahead to achieve recovery. So this is kind of the bill that when we started working on this 3 years ago, they said, this is what really needs to be done, but it's never going to happen. So now it actually might happen. So it's really exciting. It's kind of a root cause of this cycle of addiction, incarceration, and poverty in Ohio is having felony records that get in the way of bettering lives. I'm just going to get to the end of this slide.
Sorry.
Oh, and then, okay, is it okay? Okay, you're on mute. Okay, so we're supporting it because of everything we just talked about. There's an epidemic in Ohio of substance abuse disorder. We want to look at it as a public health crisis and not just be incarcerating people, and the current system's not working. So in addition to saying pass HB1 and SB3, our ask is we want you to make sure you pass SB3 in addition to HB1. HB1 is pretty popular across Republicans, Democrats, law enforcement, judges. SB3 is a little bit more controversial because it goes further and there is more opposition, organized opposition to SB3. So a lot of people are saying, oh, all we need is House Bill 1, we don't need Senate Bill 3. We think you need both. And our other ask is to make Senate Bill 3 retroactive, because if it only applies to new crimes, it impacts less people. And also it kind of shuts out a lot of communities of color that have been criminalized through the war on drugs for 40 years. So making it retroactive makes this more inclusive and introduces a component of racial justice. The status is House Bill 1 passed the House and it's in the Senate committee now. Senate Bill 3 has had 7 hearings in the Judiciary Committee. We testified at 2 of them, and it's been stalled since June. So it really needs our advocacy to move it forward. And I'm going to stop now and invite questions.
I'm sorry, only because I'm trying to put SB3 in context, and maybe Marcy and Amy. Isn't the city of Cincinnati, didn't they recently just pass something very similar?
I think they did pass something similar, and localities in Ohio have been traditionally more progressive than the state legislature.
Okay. But that's why, so it's important to also, in terms of communicating to people why there might be something locally, but if it's not mandated by the state, then kind of it needs to be mandated by the state.
It doesn't impact as many people. Yeah, that makes sense. And I guess I need to do a little bit more research. I'm going to model not answering a question if you don't really know the answer. I don't know the difference between like a municipal offense and like local jails and state prison and like how that works.
I think they added some more rehab facilities or redirecting. A lot of it is about redirecting monies to the programs.
Exactly.
Not necessarily expunging records and things like that. So.
Any other questions about anything? Because that's the end of my slideshow.
Thank you. I'm really excited.
I am too. What didn't I cover? You must have a question. Anyone anxious for anything? Anyone excited for something in particular?
I guess I would just say, Phyllis, that I hope that I'll have enough background to be a good advocate. And so I'm unclear, like when we show up, how much background there'll be that will give you, sufficient context and, more depth in bills and voting beyond what you suggested and looking at vote record and other pieces versus how much really, if you don't do in advance, you're not going to have.
And there's only so much you can do. We have 90 minutes between the time we begin and the time you go out to your meetings. So I'm going to send out a big packet with articles, a Jewish text resource, and you can't guarantee everyone's going to read it. So I think we're going to also do our best to bring it to life for people in person, talk a little bit about the bills. We're going to hear some, I think, moving and compelling personal testimony from individuals who've been directly impacted by these issues. And if you think of something, Phyllis, that you feel like you need to get your hands on to feel more grounded in these issues, please reach out to me and I'll try my best to get it to you.
Lindsay, this is Jenna. Can I just say something since I went last year?
Please.
Okay, so last year I went totally unprepared for the experience, but just kind of open to what the experience was going to be. And, you know, there was a lot of kind of catch up at first, because I didn't even have this prep call. You know, like this is like really good that we're doing this prep call ahead of time to kind of see what we're going to experience. So you're already like way ahead of where I was last year. But with that being said, you know, you're not in there by yourself. You're with a group of people, and everyone is bringing to the table a different experience or knowledge of something. So, you know, even if you just have like one piece of the puzzle, it completes the puzzle while you're all in there as a team.
Thank you for adding that, Jenna.
Helpful.
I'm really also gratified to hear that was your experience.
Yeah.
And we're going to end on that happy note.
Outstanding.
We're at time, and I'm really grateful that you all took an hour out of your day. And I'm just so inspired by your willingness to jump into this experience and join us in Columbus.
Okay.
Thank you. Very well done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.